Hi, welcome to our panel. I'm really excited to have you all here for our conversation. As you guys can see, this panel is about millennials, and I'm a millennial. And because I'm a millennial, yes, laugh at me. I've been accused of some horrible things, mostly of murdering brands and industries. We've been accused of murdering napkins and bar soap, and Bloomberg recently accused us of murdering American cheese, which, I haven't had American cheese in a while. But I also want to defend my generation because we buy things, we have loyalty, and I think the brands that we have here, or represented here, are working really hard and are doing that at building loyalty among this generation that everybody wants. And they're all doing different things. And not only that, they have brought people in one way, in one channel, maybe selling watches or gyms, and then have the customers, the millennials, love them so much that they'll follow them into new and strange territories that you wouldn't even think. So we're here to learn the secrets of their success. And I thought we would start with Harvey from Equinox and Tom from Shinola, because in my mind, you've gone the biggest leap. You guys are known for selling watches, and you're launching a hotel. How are you going to make that connection for customers? How are they going to go from being watch buyers to hotel goers?
Well, for us, it's more than just about watches or a hotel. It really is about a connection, an authentic connection to a brand. When we talk to our customers, they tell us what they appreciate about us is quality, is great design, is craftsmanship, and those and the American story. It's American craftsmanship, and that formula works in more than just watches. It works in. We believe it works in hospitality. We'll find out here soon in the next couple of weeks when we open the hotel. But the early feedback we're getting is very, very positive, because it is that connection, and it is about building community. And what we see in our customers since we've been around about 5 years now is a tremendous loyalty to the brand. Our best advocates are our top customers. And they want that experience, not just of putting a watch on their wrist or a handbag over their shoulders. They want to feel a part of that craftsman community that we're building. And we certainly think that applies in the hospitality space. Whether you come and hang out in the living room of the hotel, or whether you're coming to Detroit and you want to stay 3 or 4 nights, and I encourage you to do so, it really is about surprising and delighting the customer in a lot of different ways.
So you're telling me you're not really a watch company?
No, we're more than that. We started as a watch company, and that's still the core of what we do. But we have a very strong and quickly growing leather business. We're into different products like bicycles, partnerships and collaborations that we do with other great American brands like Benchmade knives or New Era caps. Mm-hmm. So we're a lot more than just watches. And I think to survive in this time and in this market, you need to be that.
So is that the same thing that you're finding? Is that how you think you can go from being, people know Equinox gyms, but hotels, I know you're doing travel experiences. Is that the same thing you have? It's not really what your brand's about?
I mean, we don't think of it as a strange leap as you characterize, and I'm certainly also define myself.
Just the biggest leap.
I aspire to be millennial, but I'm not. But
it's tough. Not
millennial mindset, right? But this is what I'd say is, I mean, Equinox was born in 1991, and early on we defined ourselves in a category of one, and not just as, we don't even call ourselves gyms, not just as clubs, but as a lifestyle. And today, that lifestyle is more relevant than ever before. So if you think about kind of on a macro basis, health has become the new wealth. Mm-hmm. And what we do is become part of the daily routine. And you're seeing it manifest itself in so many different ways. So, the buzzwords of today of experience and community and lifestyle, those are all things that we've always done. And so our brand and portfolio brands have never been stronger. And our key target audience, our community, if you will, wants more from us, and they want to maintain that routine on a daily basis in different ways. And they want it physically, they want it digitally, and the natural extension of that is they want it when on the road. And we've all experienced this. When you hit the road, it used to be many years ago what you would prioritize was a clean bed, a reasonably well-oriented or serviced hotel. And now what the consumer wants is, besides that good bed and a clean experience, they want experience. And fitness and fitness lifestyle is high on that list. So for us, when we started talking about this, actually pre-recession and then post-recession, which is now 10 plus years ago, and it became more about self-care, which is even more relevant today than ever before, our consumers started wanting more from us. And we started hearing that they were staying in inferior hotels so they can maintain their Equinox experience while they're traveling. And so fast forward to where we are today, when we started talking about this publicly 5, 6 years ago and people started scratching their head, today people think it's a brilliant idea. And we've always done a good job of anticipating where the consumer is going. And we think this is exactly where they want to go. They still want service. They want the right experience. They want to be part of the right community. But they want to live a healthy lifestyle, and what we call that at Equinox is high-performance lifestyle. So the hotels, in our mind, is a natural extension for what we do.
Yeah, lifestyle brand, I feel like that is the sweet spot. Like, if you're a lifestyle brand, you've made it. And I feel like Goop, did Goop invent lifestyle brand? I don't know.
Sure. Let's say that we did.
But we've been talking a lot about experiences, and that seems to be something that this consumer group really wants. And I want to know how, and I think maybe Goop can talk about this, like, how do you take that experience and make it sell to people the things that you were originally selling? How do you balance that? How, or you just want to sell them the experience? How do you make it feel like I'm not being constantly sold to? Because I think that's something that, I don't know, millennials, but everyone doesn't want to feel like they're being had. So how do you make those experiences fruitful for your brand?
I think one premise that we hold very dear is that we try to underpromise and overdeliver on everything that we do. And then I think because it's all women, and it was obviously founded by a very famous woman, and she's sort of
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth Paltrow. So she's really consumer number one, and the brand was built on this sort of wave ripples of, like, if I'm interested in this, my friends are likely interested in this, and friends of friends, and it sort of has permeated and started from there. And also understanding that you can be a woman who is interested in fashion and wellness, or only interested in wellness. And so we don't expect any of the people who touch the brand to touch every part of the brand. Some people only come for style. Many people only come for recipes and sort of our annual detox. And other people want all of it. But I think that they're able to sort of parse the experience and not feel like there's an expectation that they're in with us only and in with us fully. So someone might come to an Goop Health Wellness conference and be like, I'm never going to buy this skirt. And that's fine.
How do you pull people
from one
slowly from one thing to, because I'm assuming you want more people to interact in more ways.
Yeah. I think the entire brand in its own way can be cut into like little mini gateway drugs. So I think that when people come and maybe they come for a recipe, begrudgingly or not, and they're like, wow, this recipe works and it's really good and it was simple and delicious and I feel healthier or I feel healthy, then they're like, what else do you have? A lot of people come to us through travel and through our travel content, even though that's theoretically not the bread and butter of the brand. We do really good travel listing content. And then you build their trust that way. And they sort of slowly get more and more. It's like if you take as much care with your hotel recommendations in Detroit, then maybe I can trust you for a trip recommendation. Maybe I can trust you for vitamins. I know it sounds like an insane leap, but that's sort of the thread.
It's like having a friend, right? Like, yeah. Gwyneth Paltrow is your friend.
Gwyneth Paltrow is everyone's best friend.
So we've been talking, all of you guys have mentioned your communities and how this is whatever, it's not ridiculous for them to want this thing and one thing, but with Harry's, you guys have recently launched a women's brand, which aren't your customers. So how does that work? Are you building a whole new customer base? How are you using those loyal customers to start this whole new product category? Were women buying the razors before?
Were. So some of them were our customers, but yeah.
I think I use a men's razor, so.
Many women do. So yeah, we've just recently launched a brand called Flamingo that has its own identity, and that was a very intentional choice that we made because we thought that women deserve something that sort of stands on its own and speaks for them, and what they expect out of the category and a brand in that category is slightly different. But I think the core principles of like, how do you build a community and a loyal following translate? For us, a huge tool in that is being able to sell direct to consumer, and kind of having those one-to-one touch points and relationships, and particularly in the early days, going above and beyond in terms of delivering a really exceptional customer experience that leaves somebody personally feeling good, but also that much more likely to sort of tell their friends about it and advocate on their behalf. And then I think the other thing, and given that this panel is sort of by title about millennials, that we found is that, and this I think is true of all consumers and is a broader shift, but certainly driven by millennials, is this idea that consumers expect brands to reflect their values in a way that probably was less the case historically. And that could mean a lot of different things. In the case of Harry's, the men's brand, a lot of it is, us putting forward a more kind of progressive view of what it means to be a man and masculinity, and not marketing to men like they're cavemen or just relying on sort of frat humor. In the case of Flamingo, it's having a much more sort of real, open, honest dialogue about hair removal, which, as opposed to just sort of pretending that women are goddesses and born hairless. Or some women.
Not like a Venus commercial, for example.
Yeah, but I think at least when we say sort of authenticity, which is sometimes a bit of a loaded word, I think ultimately that's what we mean is sort of a brand that has kind of real values, and then the consumers share and therefore support the brand because they view that brand as kind of being aligned with how they view the world.
I want to go back to something you said about at the beginning, going above and beyond for the customers, because it was mentioned to me, when we were talking before the panel, Goop was talking about its VIP customer experience. You mentioned the Foundry. And with the VIPs, what I thought was really interesting is, and I think it'd be nice if you could share, was about how much above and beyond you go to connect with these people. You were telling me that it's very personal. Tell us what some of the things that you do.
So we don't actually have a formal VIP program. We've just we identify our cohorts that are either extremely engaged or spending a lot of money with us over a sustained period of time. And some just touch the content or come to all of our live events, and that counts too. But haven't sort of corralled them, formalized it, and sort of dished out a card or anything like that. But we invite them to private events. We just did one at Gwyneth's house, just a small cocktail event with 25 women, just to really talk to them and listen. We call them. I'll call. Gwyneth calls.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I try to answer as many. They're not necessarily VIPs, but feedback emails. I'm on the feedback.
I just
on
want
that listserv.
Again, we think of millennials as this digitally connected generation, and of course we are, and so are you. Everyone is. But I think, it's amazing that in this day and age, people still really treasure, especially I think for more high-end brands, of course, that personal connection.
Totally. And if what you're doing isn't resonant, or it's not connecting, or you might be overlooking something that's very simple, like if we notice that someone has lapsed, and I reached out to someone who had lapsed, and she was like, well, I moved to Canada, and you guys need to figure out your Canada shipping. And I was like, that was a good point. But you learn sometimes really obvious things, and sometimes very surprising and potentially impactful things.
Yeah, what is your experience with the Foundry is what you guys call your most engaged customers?
Very similar to Elise, and ours was not a formal program either. It started with the first 2,500 watch buyers, the people who bought our first inaugural Runwell watch, and it kind of grew from there very organically. And it is very much a one-to-one connection, and started truly as a one-to-one connection. And I think now we try and scale that personal connection the best we can. And we try and do it in a way that is responsive to what they want. And what we're hearing, amazingly, we work with a company called Maker Sites that helps us with our product development. It's essentially a survey tool. But our Foundry, our top guests are the ones who want to be included. They want to feel a part of that product development process. What's next? What colors? What styles? What are you looking for? And they want that much more than they want, say, a discount. They don't want to be just a number. They don't want to be just another, another promotion to try and sell you more things. They want to be engaged, and we try and do that in a myriad of ways. And a lot of that is truly old school, one-to-one. Pick up the phone and call somebody, and that is what we find to be some of the greatest feedback. Or similar to, we don't have people over to Gwyneth Paltrow's house, but we actually have had small dinners here in New York and in Chicago with some of our key customers. We'll bring some styles and some bags that we're looking at and have them give us feedback, or we'll tell them to wear a watch for a month and give us feedback on what they like or don't like about it. And those are our most valuable sources of input to our process.
I mean, that's the dream. That's the dream, right? Your customers want to be involved more and more in your brand. I think that's definitely the dream. I'm wondering, with Equinox, you have obviously lots of ages of customers. Have you found it is different with millennials? I mean, you guys obviously have cycling classes at Equinox, but also SoulCycle, which might be more of a millennial brand. Can you tell us more about those decisions?
Yeah, I mean, we recognized many years ago an opportunity to, once again, anticipating somewhere where the consumer was going, we saw an opportunity to segment the landscape. And, we have and continue to thrive as Equinox fitness clubs and clearly the leader in luxury fitness. But we saw an opportunity to also cater to someone who wanted more boutique experience. And so our emerging trend around boutique fitness, which is more the studios. So if an Equinox is 30 to 40,000 square feet and has classes in strength training and personal training and pools and spas and retail and all that good stuff, done better than anybody out there, we also saw that boutique was emerging as a trend, and so hence SoulCycle. And so you've got full service Equinox, you've got SoulCycle on a boutique experience. There's definitely some overlap between the consumer going back and forth, because in our world the consumer wants more variety than ever before. But we also saw another opportunity in our space. Don't like playing in the middle. We saw an opportunity to kind of do something around fast fitness and cater to someone who needs something that's more affordable. In our world, the 3 reasons why people don't join health clubs or gyms, for that matter: too expensive, don't know how, and it's intimidating. And so we work with a renowned architect and designer here in New York, David Rockwell, to create something called Blink Fitness, which took away a lot of the frills. If you think about where airlines went for many years, is they kept surveying their customer. The customers kept saying, better price, better price, better price. So the pillow went away, the blanket went away, the peanuts went away, it all went away, right?
The seats went away.
And everything went away. If they could have us standing like the New York subway, they would do that too. And so we created something around Blink, which has been wildly successful. It's just as successful as Soul and Equinox. So between the 3 brands, now we have coaching 300 locations. Blink we started 6 years ago, and it caters to an audience that wants something that's more affordable. The middle in our world, not a good place. So we've segmented very successfully, and we've also, in catering to the millennial, we've also thought about specifically, well, what's different? And we use them kind of as inspiration. So if you think about Equinox, a lot of what they want today, the millennial population, and half of our population is millennial, is exactly what we've been doing for years. The buzzwords that you referenced and I referenced: the community, the experience, lifestyle. We can talk about corporate synergies. We want to use that buzzword too. But nonetheless, that's what we've done for over 25 years. So to some extent, it's doubling down. But at the same time, and I've always talked to our team about being challenged by the toughest consumers, and the most loyal, because oftentimes the most loyal, they really feel like they own your brand, and you want them to feel like they own the brand, but they're going to be the most critical. Right? They're going to be in your face in today's world where you can email or text or tweet or whatever, and they want instant response. So I think the millennial audience has encouraged us to, and Elise and I were just talking before we start, move faster, think more, innovate more. And so that's great inspiration for me and our team to do a lot more. And some of it you're seeing in hotels, you're seeing it in travel, because our population wants more community, and you're going to see something pretty big around digital from us, as well as another studio offering that we're going to bring to the market next year. So we're doing more, once again, anticipating what our consumer wants, and a lot of that inspiration is coming from the millennials.
So you mentioned, just by the way, I belong to Blink. and I have also gone to SoulCycle. So I think that's another
Thank
thing
you.
with millennials where it's like, you know, we can't always afford all the nicest things, but want them. So kind of mix and match and don't want to feel locked into something all the time. But you brought up customers who tell you when you're doing something wrong. And I think, you know, when you're leaping from category to category, you might take a misstep. And I pose this question to all of you is when, you know, could you give an example of when you tried something and the customer didn't follow, or, you know, or you've been hesitant to try something because you're worried that the customer, you know, when doesn't it work? You can't just go into a new category just because you're a lifestyle brand and expect people will come. I'll put one of you on the spot if you don't, if someone doesn't start talking.
I told Tom before we started that he's going to open a hotel first, so I'm watching.
Yeah, it could be hotels.
That's right. No, I don't. Thankfully, I don't think it's going to be hotels. But for us, we did have, and we have gone into other categories. We're exactly what you're describing, Rebecca. And one example of one where we didn't gain traction is headphones. We're in audio space. We did a beautiful turntable partnership with some folks in New Jersey that have been doing it for a long time, and it's fantastic. Great speakers, wonderful. You kind of take it out of the cabinet and put it on the in the centerpiece of your living room, and it is right timed perfectly with the resurgence of vinyl. But the reality is that, you know, we thought, oh great, we hit the mark on that. Now we'll just extend into headphones. Well, the reality is it's a much different category than any of those other products that we're in. It is a consumer electronics play. There's some giants obviously in the space, and we probably don't belong there in the scale that we thought we could. So that's something where we had to right size and learn a bit on the fly. But we can still provide a great experience to the customers who love us, but we don't want to go start taking on Sony and Beats and all those guys. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think innovation gone awry is usually when it's driven by like a business imperative as opposed to the consumer at the end of the day. So, you know, in our case, we struggled a little bit with, on our direct-to-consumer model, like, do we put people into a subscription, or that's better for us from a business standpoint? And that makes a lot of sense for some set of consumers, but for some consumers that doesn't necessarily make sense. And just because it's a better business outcome, like, you can't force an unnatural behavior. And so we've tried to balance that, come up with an approach over time as we've learned that, to offer a myriad of options that you know, hit different consumers where they are. But fundamentally, our approach to innovation, with that as a micro example, I think is that, you know, you have to let a consumer need dictate first and foremost, and not just assume because people love your brand that they'll give you credibility to do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. If you're actually solving a problem for them in a new sector, that's great. But just strength of brand alone doesn't give you license to do everything.
Yeah, although it's interesting because we have a subscription for our vitamins now, and we're very resistant to doing it. I was a fierce, I missed on this one big time, but I hate subscriptions. And so we were like, we do not want to do that. People are allergic. It looks salesy. It's gross, even though it actually makes a lot of sense for many replenishable products, including vitamins. And so we didn't launch with it. And then we finally were like, let's just roll it out in a very low-key way that's very easy to cancel. And lo and behold, people want subscriptions to vitamins, and it is a great business solution. And that was like an we had a lot of force in our refusal, in our belief that they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you say it out loud, subscription to vitamins. I mean, it's not, and surprising.
Pretty basic. And now we have it for a lot of different products because people like the replenishment model in a way that we did not predict.
Yeah. How about any missteps you want to share?
Yeah, we failed in vitamins and supplements twice.
Really?
We did it way early, back like in circa 2000, and then we tried it again because it just seemed so logical. But what we learned was that the consumer, we have a lot of authority, obviously a lot of authenticity, which is more relevant today than ever before, but not for putting something inside your body. Mm. So it seemed logical. Okay, health. People are taking vitamins and supplements. Therefore, why don't we do branded? We'll co-brand whatever with the best, and that's what we did. And there was no uptake.
That's really interesting.
So that's where, you know, but you don't know those things if you're not willing to test and try and play and what have you. And one of the things that's really good for us, once again, because we have that addictive and very loyal audience by brand, almost cult-like in some respects, that they'll give you that feedback. And so, and they want us to try, and they want us to test. And so what I say to the team is, the good news is, because we've got this great footprint and this great community around the United States and outside the United States now, is we can put stuff in front of them in one location, try it, and learn from it, and then, you know, pull back or what have you. Be careful about New York and LA always, because that's the toughest audience. But you can learn. So like even when we opened the first time in LA, and we were just a New York-centric business back in 2000, we didn't know if we could perform across the country. So we opened, for those of you from Los Angeles, we opened in Pasadena. So technically on a map, that is Los Angeles County, but I'm sure you would tell me, Angelinos say Pasadena is not Los Angeles. So we often off Broadway, because we knew when we hit West Hollywood or Santa Monica, if we missed, we were done as a brand. So we've been pretty thoughtful, but I also say that one of the things I'm sure we'd all agree on is when you're a really good, I'll call it operator, and you're really close to your business, it's not the first time that it works often. It's not the second time. It's the third and fourth time. So just like you articulated, you can't give up on something. You got to understand what's not working, what's not resonating, and you pivot left, pivot right before you abandon. But sometimes you got to abandon.
Yeah. Well, I hope that this panel was enlightening to you as it was to me. I hope that you take away that, you know, millennials are more than they're stereotyped to be. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.